Welcome to a captivating journey through history as we explore the enigmatic figure of Vlad the Impaler, a man known for his extreme cruelty, yet hailed as a patriotic hero. In this video, we will unravel the complex tale of Vlad the Impaler, the inspiration behind the infamous Count Dracula. Was he a bloodthirsty tyrant or a valiant defender of his land? Join us as we delve into the life, legends, and legacy of this intriguing historical figure. But before we get started, if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on our captivating content. Now, let's jump right into it. Vlad the Impaler, or Vlad Dracula, or Vladislav III, the Lord of Wallachia, is a rather famous person in history. Some credit him with the defense of his lands, the defense of his homeland in the fight against the Ottoman Empire, and others prefer to look at Tepes from a rather romantic side, attributing to him the secret of eternal life, or, rather, undying. They consider Vlad Dracula the king of vampires, and in vampires, according to the beliefs, there is no real life. The third hypostasis of Vlad, which perhaps only historians know, is that he tried to centralize the lands of Wallachia, the principality he ruled. This was the time of the conquest of the Balkan Peninsula by the Ottoman Empire, the period of military campaigns of Sultan Mehmed II, who conquered Constantinople in 1453. For which he was nicknamed Fatih, Conqueror. Mehmed II is known for his outstanding military successes and annexation of huge territories. The alarming situation of those years gave rise to many legends about the Wallachian lords and Hungarian rulers. Vlad got his nickname, Dracul or Dragon, from his father Vladislav II, who was a knight of the Order of the Dragon. The dragon was depicted on his banners. Therefore the word, Dracul, dragon, began to be perceived by contemporaries and descendants as a patrimonial name of Vlad III. When our hero became known for his excessive cruelty, many people who knew him, especially his enemies, began to shorten the word, dragon, to the short, drac, that is, devil. For his tough temper Vlad III received another nickname, Tepes, from the word, stake, and it meant, the one who put on the stake. Indeed, he had a predilection for this method of execution, standing out for its fierceness even at that time. However, many rulers at that time were not too humane. The Turks were no less active in using this execution as a deterrent. The bodies placed on the stake and displayed for all to see were meant to remind both subjects and enemies that the same torturous fate could befall them. It is always easier to subdue those who are frightened. Vlad III was born, most likely, in 1431, and the date of his death is known precisely, 1476. The dates of his reign are from 1456 to 1462. In 1476 he made an attempt to return to power, which ended in failure. First let's talk about the historical background of Vlad's life, and then about the legends about him. He came from a family of Wallachian gentlemen. From 1386 to 1418 his grandfather Miucea the Old ruled in Wallachia. After his death, a struggle for power began in the country, and gentlemen began to change the throne quite often. First Miucea's son Michael I ruled, then Alexander I Aldia, a completely different family. And then, with the support of Transylvanian boyars, the father of our hero, Vlad II, the very Vlad II Dracul, came to the throne of Wallachia. One of the main directions of his foreign policy was to reach agreements with the Ottoman Empire. The Ottoman Turks made long-distance campaigns, thanks to which they were able to capture a large territory. They conquered cities and countries, sought subordination from local rulers. If the defeated ruler did not obey, he could be executed, sent into exile or forced to flee, and then the Sultan negotiated with another representative of the local nobility. The new ruler had to pay tribute to the Sultan and call himself a vassal of the Ottoman Empire. Very many Balkan rulers followed this way, as it was practically the only way for them to reach the throne and strengthen their power. Vlad II, in order to end the feuds, voluntarily paid tribute to the Sultan. But the Sultan nevertheless suspected him of treason, imprisoned him and released him only after Vlad II ordered to bring his two sons, Vlad, future the Impaler, and Radu, to Istanbul. Vlad's childhood was spent in the Ottoman Empire. He was in the camp of the enemy for a long time, but managed to get out of there, return home, having internalized some Ottoman habits, among which, and cruelty to enemies, and some methods of warfare. The thing is that sometimes the Ottoman Turks during military operations put on themselves the skins of animals or plumage of birds to be invisible at night. Very often it was the skins of wolves, in which the warriors of reconnaissance detachments were dressed. When Vlad became the Lord of Wallachia, he began to dress his soldiers in the same way. Naturally, rumors arose that he and his cronies were werewolves. And since wolves are not herbivores, they feed on meat and blood, we are close to the legends of vampirism. In 1456, with the help of Hungarian King János Hunyadi, Vladislav III or Vlad Dracula came to power in Wallachia, who managed to do a lot during his reign. He managed to stabilize the internal situation of the country, made the residence of the gentleman the city of Bucharest, in which he built a powerful fortress. In addition to the constant confrontation with the Turks, Vlad fought against the autocracy of the boyars, boyarstvo, or bolyarstvo, in the Balkans called the nobility. He fought for the unity of power in the country, for monopoly, that is actually for centralization. Vlad understood that only centralization would allow him to give a worthy response to the Ottoman Empire, which had a very strong and well-organized army. In the struggle with the boyars to strengthen the central power, Vladislav III faced great discontent of his subjects, who did not want to give up their positions. Strengthening the state, the Lord waged with them a continuous and very cruel struggle. Similar situation was in other countries, including the states of Western Europe. But the situation in Wallachia was complicated by the neighborhood with the Ottoman Empire and constant clashes with it. In addition, Vlad III patronized Wallachian merchants, trying to protect them from foreign merchants, including Turkish ones. Foreign merchants were allowed to trade in the border zone, while in the central regions only Valash merchants were allowed to do so. In addition, foreign merchants could sell their goods only at fairs, which were held once a year. This also caused strong discontent, including merchants from neighboring Transylvania, who thus lost income. As you can see, Vladislav III did quite a lot for his state, but discontent grew both inside Wallachia among the boyar who wanted to preserve power and independence, and among foreign merchants. Under Vlad, the status of not only Bucharest but also some other cities such as Brasov and Sibiu increased. Brasov should be emphasized because it was the location of Dracula's ancestral castle. The authentic castle has not survived to date, but there is another ancient palace in the Brasov area which has gained fame as Dracula's house and which is equipped for tourists to visit. Since this castle really existed during the life and reign of Vlad III, Dracula may well have visited it as a guest. In order to subdue Brasov, Vlad the Impaler conducted a rather successful punitive campaign against the local boyar. In 1459, the Ottoman Empire conquered a large area of Serbian lands. They bordered on the Wallachian lands, and the Impaler agreed to participate in a very large anti-Ottoman campaign, which took place in the late 1450s, together with the Hungarian king Matyas Corvin. The latter ruled Hungary from 1458 to 1490 and also sought to unite the territories of the kingdoms of Hungary and Bohemia in the fight against the Ottoman Empire. In 1461, the Impaler refused to pay tribute to the Turkish Sultan and quite brutally massacred his envoys. For this, incidentally, Vlad was heroically sung in many folk songs. He was glorified as a just ruler, who protects free peasants, not allowing to collect unjust tribute from them. Vladislav III really successfully fought with the Turks and pushed back the Ottoman army beyond the borders of his possessions, but in the summer of 1462 the Turkish army led by Mehmed II himself, the conqueror of Constantinople, invaded Wallachia. As often happened, the Sultan decided to face the brothers and brought Vlad's younger brother Radu, who was still in the Ottoman Empire, as the sovereign of Wallachia on his behalf. The Sultan obtained for Radu the support of those nobles who were against the centralizing policy of Tepes and thought that everything would be different under the new ruler. The boyars made an agreement with the Ottoman Empire and came over to Radu's side. The Impaler was forced to flee to Hungary, counting on the support of Matyas Corvinus. Corvinus, of course, was against the Turkish Sultan, but decided not to quarrel with him. he fought the Bohemian king G of Podbrady in order to unite Hungary and Bohemia under his rule. At that time Corvinus preferred to remain neutral and made peace with Rodu and imprisoned the Impaler. Rodu ruled in Wallachia from 1462 to 1473 and had a completely different nickname. His name was Rodu the Handsome. As portraits testify, Vlad the Impaler was also distinguished by a prominent and even beautiful appearance. However, contemporaries emphasized other aspects of his nature. In 1473, with the assistance of Moldavian gentleman Stefan the Great, Rodu was replaced by Lajota Basarab. And after 12 years the Impaler decided to return to Wallachia to regain the throne, but was ambushed by Lajota Basarab and was killed. Such are the historical facts testifying about life and board of the Wallachian gentleman Vladislav III. He lived for 45 years. Is that a long time? For a warring gentleman, it is probably an average age. Despite the fact that in the Middle Ages the general social level was lower and life expectancy was shorter, many rulers lived to a ripe old age. If fate was merciful to them and they did not die on the battlefield. But Vlad the Impaler fought constantly, like many Balkan rulers, so he constantly felt the proximity of death. The cruelty of the Impaler was legendary. It is known case when a Bolerin came to him, to whom Vlad III already had certain claims and accepted him in the appropriate entourage. The table was set in the princely court and surrounded by the bodies of criminals put to the stake. Many of them were familiar to the guest. In the course of the dinner the visitor said, "Sovereign, the air here is so heavy, can't we discuss our matters elsewhere?" To which Vlad III, who no longer wanted to discuss any issues with him, replied, "Oh. The air here is too heavy for you. Then raise it higher, that it may breathe more easily." This was an order to stake a vassal undesirable to the lord. Such stories about Vlad were told a lot, and they were connected, as a rule, not with his nocturnal adventures, as if he flew somewhere and drank blood, but with his cruelty towards his enemies and his subjects. But there were other legends, for example, about how he met tribute collectors and, seeing their cruel treatment of peasants, stood up for the peasants, saying to the tax collectors, "You must now starve yourselves as you make these people starve," and imprisoned them in a dungeon where they died a starvation death. In fact, Vladislav III was a ruler who pursued a centralizing policy and tried to protect the borders of his state in difficult conditions that forced him to resort to extreme cruelty. The people of that distant 15th century were not as humane as they are today. They thought first of all not about human life, but about the tasks they had to fulfill, and they themselves were ready to die at any moment. Probably, the very relative brevity of the life of the ruler-warrior, which he himself had to realize, gave rise to the legend that Vlad, who wanted to rule as long as possible and realized that he could be killed at any moment, bought from wandering monks from Western Europe the secret of undying. The secret was that Vlad, who wanted to prolong his life in order to defend his homeland, had to become a blood-drinking vampire. In the Greek, Romanian, Bulgarian territories, there are a lot of legends about vampires that emerged at that time. There are different versions why such stories were so widespread there. One of them lies in the mixing of cultures. Ottoman religion and culture were completely alien to the local population. Everything was different: the clothes of Ottoman Turks, their manner of behavior, the way they practiced their religion, their attitude to family. It was not for nothing that French historians called the Ottoman invasion of Europe a counter-Christian revolution. It was indeed a clash between the world of Islam and the world of Christianity. The common people of the Middle Ages, who were thus caught between two religions, between two worlds, between two types of consciousness, mixed different beliefs, could not understand how to get out of this situation, and often became inclined to mysticism. And the second version says that the peculiarity of the Balkan soils often preserved the bodies of dead people incorruptible for quite a long time. And when there was, for example, a loss of cattle in the village, the villagers began to find out, "What's going on? Who jinxed our cattle?" They remembered that a man who was considered a sorcerer had died recently. Then they opened the grave and saw that the body was incorruptible, which means that the Gal was not dead. He gets up every night and does evil deeds. Therefore, it is necessary to deal with him in a special way. As a matter of fact, this is how the legend of Vlad Dracula's vampire essence was born. Of course, he was not a vampire in the real sense of the word, but the bloodsucker, who acted in the interests of his state and his own, sometimes using for this purpose methods not at all humane and, from our point of view, unauthorized. He certainly was. But since Vlad Dracula lived in dark, troubled times, and his behavior was to a certain extent explainable by the difficult political situation, so many contemporaries and descendants extolled him as one of the greatest defenders of Wallachia from the Ottoman Empire. And, of course, a great contribution to the formation of the legend of the vampire Vlad Dracula was made by the English writer Bram Stoker, who made him the hero of his novel and thus finally immortalized him. As we conclude our exploration of Vlad the Impaler, it's evident that his story is a multifaceted one. Whether you view him as a ruthless ruler who used terror as a tool or a fearless defender of Wallachia, the legacy of Vlad the Impaler remains shrouded in mystery. One thing is for sure, his influence has left an indelible mark on the world of literature and folklore, giving rise to the iconic vampire, Count Dracula. We hope this video has shed light on the complexities of this historical figure, leaving you with a deeper understanding of the man behind the legend. Thank you for joining us on this intriguing journey through the life and times of Vlad the Impaler, the real-life Dracula. History is more interesting than you think. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, and leave your thoughts in the comments below. Let's explore the mysteries of history together.